experienced before.
Exactly.
And when you come out of a deep, deep darkness, your joy and your happiness is different.
And everybody sees that.
And you measure it different, and it shows different because of the darkness that you've been through.
Yeah.
It comes out different, and you appreciate.
The secret they didn't want you to know. Joni Lamb and Doug Weiss, exposed, by Rodney Howard. What has been hidden from the public for so long is finally coming to light. In a shocking revelation, Rodney Howard uncovers the truth behind Joni Lamb and Doug Weiss. Truth that could change everything you thought you knew about them. This is not just a story of scandal. It's a game changer that will leave you questioning everything. Don't miss out on this explosive expose. The sudden shift in leadership at Daystar following Marcus Lamb's death sent shockwaves through both the ministry and the public. Marcus, the co-founder of Daystar, was not only the face of the network, but also its driving force. His death in 2021 left a gaping hole, both in the Lamb family and within the ministry. Joni Lamb, his widow, was left to take on a leadership role that no one had expected her to fill under such difficult circumstances. While many felt sympathy for Joni, understanding that grief is complex and healing takes time, there was an undercurrent of skepticism surrounding how quickly she moved forward. 2 years after Marcus's passing, Joni entered into a relationship with Doug Weiss, a respected Christian counselor with a controversial past. Their quick progression towards marriage sparked a wave of concern and confusion among many. For some, it was a sign that Joni was finally finding happiness and healing, which was understandable. Grief is not linear, and finding new love after a deep loss is something that many people experience. However, for others, it seemed too fast, and the question of whether Joni was truly ready for such a commitment was raised. It was as though the Lamb family and Daystar had not yet fully processed Marcus's death, and to many, it felt like Joni had skipped an important healing stage. As a public figure, Joni's personal life was no longer just about her. Every decision she made became part of the public discourse. The speed of her new relationship, particularly when viewed in the context of her leadership at Daystar, seemed to clash with the very values that the network had long promoted. Daystar had always been a beacon of faith, commitment, and family values. Joni and Marcus had built the network together with these ideals at the forefront. Now, with her personal choices under intense scrutiny, many wondered if Daystar could remain a symbol of those same values. The backlash was not just public, it was personal. Family members, particularly Joni's children, struggled with the relationship. Their father had only been gone for a short time, and to them it felt like their mother was moving on too quickly. It wasn't just a personal matter, it was a leadership issue. As the face of Daystar, Joni's actions and decisions had a direct impact on the ministry's future. Internal tensions within the family grew as they expressed concerns about Joni's relationship and how it could affect the legacy Marcus had built. These concerns, however, were met with resistance. Joni stood firm in her belief that she had prayed about the relationship and that it was part of God's plan for her healing. Her unwavering conviction made it difficult for her to hear the doubts and concerns voiced by those closest to her. At the same time, the public began to question the direction of Daystar itself. Some Christian organizations started to distance themselves from the network, worried that the leadership's personal decisions were overshadowing the ministry's message. They were concerned that the integrity of Daystar was at risk, and that Joni's personal choices were distracting from the mission of the network. This led to a decline in support, and soon, Daystar found itself facing a credibility crisis. Donations began to dwindle, and the ministry's supporters, once loyal and enthusiastic, started to question the direction in which the network was heading. For Joni, the personal backlash was difficult to navigate. Not only was she grieving the loss of her husband, but she was also struggling with the immense pressure of being thrust into a leadership role while also trying to rebuild her personal life. The scrutiny from the public, combined with the tensions within her family, made everything feel much harder. The weight of leading a global ministry while managing a public relationship was something Joni had never anticipated. But for her, this shift wasn't just about moving on from Marcus's death. It was about finding a new purpose in the midst of her grief, a purpose she believed she could fulfill with Doug by her side. However, the public wasn't as quick to accept this new chapter in her life, and it left Joni facing the difficult reality of balancing her personal life with her role as a leader of a worldwide ministry. The sudden shift in leadership at Daystar had irrevocably changed the course of the network's future, and Joni was left to grapple with the emotional toll of being both a widow and a leader under intense scrutiny. The financial concerns surrounding Daystar Television Network, especially in light of Joni Lamb's personal decisions, became one of the most significant and talked about issues following the scandal. Daystar had long been one of the largest Christian television networks in the world, built on the foundation of faith, trust, and the support of millions of viewers. The network's success had been driven by the generosity of its audience, people who believed in the mission of the ministry and who donated their hard-earned money to help spread the gospel. However, as the controversy unfolded and details of financial mismanagement began to surface, those same viewers found themselves questioning where their donations were really going.
The things that are being said, even to the point of people saying that probably I killed Marcus in the hospital because I was having an affair, blah, blah, blah. And Rodney Howard Brown got mixed up talking to you and told Jimmy that Doug was texting me or sexting me. He never sexted me. He is a pure man. We didn't have sex till we got married. That he was sexting me in January after Marcus died in November is a complete lie. Well, Jonathan knows that. But the lie was perpetuated because Rodney went and told other people and other people. That's the damage that you've done to me. And the damage that you've done to a godly man who has integrity and is known for his integrity.
One of the first major concerns to arise was the purchase of a private jet by Daystar. To many, this seemed like an extravagant and unnecessary expense for a ministry that relied on donations from people who trusted that their money would be used for ministry purposes. Joni Lamb defended the purchase, explaining that the jet was necessary for the ministry's global reach and the need for quick travel to various locations. She argued that the jet would allow Daystar leaders to travel efficiently for speaking engagements, conferences, and mission trips. On the surface, it seemed like a reasonable justification. After all, many large organizations, including other Christian ministries, owned private jets for similar purposes. But to the public, it raised serious questions. The backlash was immediate. Many supporters of Daystar, who had donated money with the belief that it was being used for the ministry's mission, began to feel betrayed. The idea that funds meant for spreading the gospel were being used for luxury items like a private jet made it hard for people to reconcile their trust in the network with the reality of how money was being spent. The timing of the jet purchase, when so many other ministries were struggling and when donations were increasingly hard to come by, only added to the public outcry. To many, it seemed that Daystar's leadership was more focused on maintaining an image of power and success than on fulfilling the ministry's original mission. As rumors about the misuse of funds continued to spread, the financial situation at Daystar became a focal point for critics. There were whispers about extravagant spending beyond the jet, with some alleging that Daystar was more interested in flaunting its wealth than serving its community. These rumors were further fueled by reports of large sums of money moving to offshore accounts, and questions about how donations were being allocated. For a network that had built its reputation on faith and integrity, these allegations were deeply troubling. They raised the question, how could a ministry that preached financial stewardship and humility be involved in such questionable financial practices? The public perception of Daystar began to shift dramatically. The network had once been seen as a beacon of hope and inspiration for millions of viewers, but now it was being scrutinized for its financial transparency, or lack thereof. The financial concerns weren't just about the jet or offshore accounts. They were about the broader issue of trust. Daystar had asked its viewers for financial support based on the idea that their money would go toward spreading the gospel, helping those in need, and supporting Christian programming. When the public learned that some of those funds might not have been used as promised, it created a rift between the network and its audience. The situation was further complicated by the fact that Joni Lamb, as the face of Daystar, was directly connected to the controversy. While she defended the financial decisions made by the ministry, including the purchase of the jet, many people felt that she was not being transparent enough about where the money was going. Joni's personal life, particularly her quick relationship with Doug Weiss, had already attracted criticism, and now the financial concerns only added fuel to the fire. Some felt that her leadership was compromised and that the ministry was being run more like a business than a faith-based organization. Joni's response to the criticism was seen by some as defensive, and this only deepened the divide between her and the public. The emotional toll of these financial concerns was significant for Joni and her team. As the leader of Daystar, Joni had always worked to build a network that represented faith, generosity, and trust. To see that trust unravel in the wake of these financial allegations was heartbreaking for her. She had spent years cultivating relationships with donors, viewers, and ministry partners, and now it felt like all of that was at risk. The pressure to defend the ministry's financial decisions, while also trying to heal from personal grief and manage her public image, was overwhelming. Behind the scenes, Daystar staff and leadership were dealing with their own concerns. The financial instability caused by the backlash against the jet purchase and the allegations of financial mismanagement created a sense of uncertainty within the ministry. Many staff members had dedicated their careers to Daystar, and now they were faced with the possibility that the network's reputation and funding could be permanently damaged. Some began to question whether they should continue working for a ministry that was now under intense public scrutiny. Others wondered if the financial practices of the past few years had been in line with the values they had once believed in. The donors who had once supported Daystar generously began to pull back their contributions. This was perhaps the most immediate consequence of the financial scandal. Many viewers who had donated large sums of money over the years began to question whether their contributions were being used responsibly. The idea of giving money to a ministry that might be mismanaging funds was enough to make some donors stop supporting Daystar altogether. The decline in donations had a ripple effect, leading to concerns about the network's ability to maintain its programming and continue its mission. Daystar had once been a shining example of a successful Christian network, but now it faced the very real possibility of financial collapse. As Daystar's financial concerns continued to grow, the public perception of the network became more and more divided. Some people continued to stand by Joni Lamb, arguing that she had been a strong leader for many years and that the financial issues were part of a larger, ongoing investigation that needed time to unfold. Others, however, began to see the network as an example of everything that was wrong with the Christian media industry. The focus on wealth, power, and personal gain seemed to overshadow the very values that Daystar had once stood for. This perception created a tense atmosphere within the ministry, where every decision was now being scrutinized by the public, the media, and the supporters who had once trusted Daystar without question. Ultimately, the financial concerns and the resulting shift in public perception revealed a deeper issue within Christian media organizations. Many faith-based networks, including Daystar, had relied heavily on the trust of their supporters. The scandal surrounding Daystar exposed the fragility of that trust, and the consequences were far-reaching. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the values that these ministries represented and the expectations that had been placed on them by their audiences. The public's reaction to Daystar's financial troubles was a wake-up call for other Christian ministries, reminding them that financial transparency and accountability are not just important, they are essential to maintaining trust and integrity in the eyes of the public. For Joni Lamb and Daystar, the road to recovery would not be easy. Rebuilding trust, restoring the network's reputation, and addressing the financial concerns that had come to light would require significant effort and a commitment to transparency. Joni would need to prove to both her supporters and critics that Daystar was capable of not only surviving this crisis, but coming out stronger on the other side. The financial concerns that had plagued Daystar were a stark reminder of the dangers of losing sight of the values that had made the ministry successful in the first place. Moving forward, it would take more than just a good public relations campaign. It would take genuine change, humility, and a renewed focus on the mission that Daystar had once represented. The media frenzy surrounding Daystar Television Network and the controversy involving Joni Lamb and Doug Weiss was unlike anything the Christian media world had ever experienced. What started as an investigation into the network's financial dealings quickly spiraled into a full-blown media circus. From national news outlets to online blogs, everyone had something to say about the scandal. The once gleaming reputation of Daystar, built on years of hard work and faith-based values, was now being ripped apart by headlines, social media posts, and heated debates. When the FBI raid on Joni Lamb's estate made headlines, it set off a chain reaction. The world was suddenly forced to pay attention to Daystar in a way it never had before. People who had once admired Joni for her leadership in Christian broadcasting now found themselves questioning her integrity. The media wasted no time jumping into the fray, and the public, hungry for answers, was eager to consume every detail. The network, which had once been known for its uplifting programming and positive messages, was now a symbol of scandal, secrecy, and doubt. As soon as the news of the raid broke, the media's coverage intensified. Newsrooms were filled with speculation, and the internet buzzed with rumors and leaks. The investigation, which initially seemed like just another routine financial inquiry, became a deeply personal story. Joni's life, once viewed by many as a model of grace and faith, was now under intense scrutiny. Every detail about her relationship with Doug Weiss, her late husband Marcus Lamb's death, and the internal workings of Daystar were dissected by reporters, bloggers, and social media users alike. The more the media dug, the deeper the divide became. On one hand, there were those who defended Joni, arguing that the investigation was a targeted attack on a respected leader within the Christian community. They claimed that the media was sensationalizing the situation, blowing things out of proportion in order to bring down a successful woman of faith. Supporters rallied behind her, defending her right to heal and move forward after the tragic death of her husband. They pointed out that grief doesn't follow a neat timeline, and that Joni's decision to remarry Doug Weiss, a respected Christian counselor, was a personal one, not something that should be used to judge her leadership. On the other hand, there were those who criticized Joni's actions, saying that her quick remarriage to Doug, coupled with the financial irregularities at Daystar, raised serious questions about her judgment and the integrity of the network. For many, the optics of it all were troubling. Daystar, a network built on faith and generosity, was now being accused of misusing donations, with funds allegedly flowing into offshore accounts and being used for extravagant personal purchases, like the private jet. The criticism was not just about Joni's relationship with Doug. It was about the entire direction of the ministry and whether it had strayed too far from its core values. Social media played a huge role in amplifying the divide. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram exploded with opinions, many of them passionate and harsh. People who had once been loyal viewers of Daystar now found themselves questioning everything they had supported. Some fans of the network expressed their disappointment, saying that they no longer felt comfortable watching Daystar after the scandal broke. Others, however, rallied behind Joni, insisting that she was a victim of unfair attacks and that her faith and leadership should not be judged based on her personal life. The media's role in this was significant. Reporters were eager to cover the story from every angle, often relying on leaks and rumors to fill in the gaps. Every day brought new updates, new accusations, and new reactions from the public. News outlets broadcast interviews with experts, former employees, and even family members of Joni and Marcus Lamb. These interviews, while providing valuable insights, only served to add fuel to the fire. The story was no longer just about financial mismanagement. It had become a drama, with all the twists, turns, and intrigue of a soap opera. But this wasn't fiction. This was real life, and the consequences were far-reaching. The online world quickly became a battleground for opinions. YouTube channels dedicated to exposing the truth behind Daystar's fall began to amass thousands of views, with people dissecting every piece of information, analyzing every statement made by Joni or Doug. Comment sections were filled with angry comments, supportive messages, and heated debates. The situation became a cultural event, with people outside of the Christian community becoming involved in the drama. For some, the story was a gossip-filled spectacle, a juicy piece of entertainment. For others, it was a painful reminder of the dangers of misplaced trust in religious leaders and institutions. The growing divide within the Christian community itself was perhaps the most striking outcome of the media frenzy. Pastors, ministry leaders, and regular churchgoers found themselves caught in the middle. On one side, there were those who felt that Joni and Daystar should be given the benefit of the doubt, that they had done so much good over the years and deserved a chance to recover from the scandal. These supporters emphasized the importance of grace, forgiveness, and redemption, believing that the media should not be so quick to judge. On the other side, there were those who felt that the scandal was a wake-up call for the Christian community, a sign that even the most trusted leaders can fall short. They argued that the behavior of Joni and Doug was indicative of a larger problem within Christian media, where personal ambitions and the pursuit of wealth could cloud the mission of the ministry. These critics were not just concerned about the financial implications of the scandal. They were concerned about the message it sent to the broader public. If Daystar, one of the most visible Christian ministries in the world, was guilty of such ethical violations, what did that say about the state of Christian media as a whole? The emotional toll of the media frenzy was felt deeply by everyone involved. For Joni, the constant barrage of negative press was overwhelming. She had spent years building Daystar into the powerful network it had become, and now her life, her leadership, and her faith were under intense scrutiny. The public perception of her was changing, and it was difficult for her to reconcile the image of herself as a strong, faith-driven leader with the accusations and criticisms being leveled against her. Joni was caught in a difficult position. She had to defend her actions, her decisions, and her faith while also dealing with the personal heartbreak of losing her husband and moving forward with a new relationship. For Doug Weiss, the situation was just as complicated. As a well-known Christian counselor, his reputation was also on the line. The public questioning of his past relationships and his role in the scandal added to the pressure. Many felt that Doug, with his controversial past, was an unsuitable partner for Joni, especially given the sensitive nature of her leadership position. The media's portrayal of their relationship made it difficult for Doug to distance himself from the accusations, and his involvement in the scandal only fueled the growing divide. In the end, the media frenzy surrounding Daystar, Jonilamb, and Doug Weiss highlighted the complex relationship between public perception, private lives, and leadership. The story became a cautionary tale for other ministries and public figures, reminding them that their actions, both personal and professional, would be scrutinized by the public. It also exposed the vulnerabilities of Christian ministries, where trust and reputation are everything. The growing divide between supporters and critics of Jonilamb, Daystar, and the entire Christian media landscape was a reflection of the broader issues facing religious institutions today. How do you balance personal freedom with public responsibility? How do you maintain integrity while dealing with the pressures of fame, wealth, and influence? And perhaps, most importantly, how do you rebuild trust once it has been broken? As the media frenzy continued to unfold, these questions remained unanswered, leaving everyone to wonder what the future held for Daystar and its leadership. The crisis of faith that surrounded Jonilamb, Doug Weiss, and Daystar Television Network was not just a matter of public scandal. It was a deeply personal and spiritual battle for all involved. As the media frenzy surrounding the financial mismanagement allegations and Joni's relationship with Doug intensified, it became clear that the very foundation of Daystar was shaking. For Jonilamb, this crisis was more than just a professional challenge. It was a crisis of the heart, soul, and leadership, one that required her to confront difficult questions about faith, redemption, and the future of the ministry she had helped build.